So welcome everybody to another session on the Alma 2023 Roadmap webinar series. Today we're talking about linked open data in Alma. I just want to remind everybody about the 2023 Alma Roadmap webinar series. This is the official page of the series. I'm going to send this out to everybody in the chat now, just in case somebody doesn't have it. Those of you watching this via YouTube, you will see this link in the description of the video in YouTube. So it's hard to believe we're already at almost the middle of November. So we've already covered a lot of sessions. And now we're at the linked open data. We still have another 2 sessions in this series. Those of you who have not yet registered may want to register. Next week, we have sets functionality in Alma using the new UI for managing sets. Some of you may be familiar with that new UI. And then November 29th, we've got another one on pre-filtering an analytics report by library staff per user, a new way to limit certain staff users from seeing data from certain libraries. And without further ado, let's begin our session today on linked open data. We're joined today by Adina Marciano from Product Management. We're going to begin with Adina giving us an overview of the roadmap plans. Then Yoel Kortik, is going to begin showing how we can create now BibFrame records in Alma via an API and how those records function inside Alma, just like records of any other format. And then we're going to look at the existing linked data functionality in Alma. As usual, please use the chat if you have any questions or comments. We're going to leave time either during the session and or at the end of the session, depending on how the chat goes, to respond to those questions and comments. So now for an overview of the roadmap plans, Adina, you can take it away. I will start sharing and go ahead. Adina, you are in mute and I have unmuted you.
Okay, sorry about that. You can see my screen okay?
Yeah, we see you and hear you just fine.
Okay, great. So I'm very happy to be here. My name is Adina Marciano. I joined Exlibris 5 months ago as a product manager for Linked Open Data, and I'm happy to discuss with you a bit about what we've been doing in the past few months and what we were working on with our focus group for our production. And I will share, as you all said, our roadmap plan. And then I will give the stage back to Yoel. So for those who aren't familiar with linked data, I will give just a brief overview of the concept. The idea of linked data is cataloging the information with links for each entity, whether it's a person, a place, a subject, and this way we can create relations between the different entities inside the record and between records, whether it's inside your silo or in a different library silo, and it allows us to create a global, robust, unflattened information environment. And this way we can create a more enriched experience. So I will also just briefly explain a bit about BibFrame structure. So as I said before, we're moving out of a flat MARC record to a hierarchy level record where we have the work, the instance, and an item. The work allows us to, gives us the conceptual essence of the record that we're talking about, whether it's the title, who wrote it, the authors, the contributors, locations, subjects of the work. And then we have the instance level, which gives us information about a specific publication, whether the year of the publication and the format and the language, etc. And then we have also, excuse me, we have the item level, which is similar to the item level today in MARC, where we can see the actual copies reflecting information such as location, shelf mark, and also if there's anything special about the item, for example, if it's a signed copy of a book. So also, what are the benefits that we have for linked open data after understanding the concept? The first thing is we have a better discoverability. We can display more straightforward navigation and accuracy. Once we have these relations linked out and spread out in a way that we can jump from link to link, we can get a more sophisticated query, making it quicker to find what you want when using a graph representation. In addition, we have another main benefit is collaborative cataloging. Once we have our information cataloged and linked and everybody's using the same links, we have a higher accuracy and less manual work. It's easier to create these relationships because we can all refer to the same entities and on an ID-based reference. And we can allow catalogers to focus on special collections and unique materials instead of copy cataloging. And the last benefit is global interoperability. Once our information is based on IDs and on links, we can open up our silos to external information and connect information between different libraries, enriching the digital world, being part of the open ecosystem of the internet, and we can create and share the high quality metadata that is available inside libraries with the world. In addition, another important aspect is we can easily support multilingual cataloging because we have all languages referring to the same URI, the same link. And this way we can all understand that we're referring to the same thing and support the multilingual records. So this cannot be done without the community. And this is something that we strongly believe in at Ex Libris, and we are working together with our community, and I will expand on this briefly. So we've heard a lot over the past few years, back and forth, about linked data. Will it happen? Should BibFrame die? I saw that there was a recent discussion that's going on. And we understand that it's a complex transition to make. And therefore, we understand at Ex Libris that we need to allow a hybrid environment where our users can choose to stay in MARC records if that's what they choose. They can choose to move to linked open data. They can choose to partially move to linked open data. If they choose a specific collection that they would like to catalog in BibFrame, they can use it via Sinopia. Sinopia, for those who are not familiar, is an open source platform for cataloging and repository of linked data. It was developed as part of the LD4P, and as part of our project right now with our focus group, we have created an integration with our APIs with Sinopia. This way, our users can turn to Sinopia catalog and have the records sent to Alma, where they will live side by side with the MARC records. So if you're using MARC, you can stay with the regular cataloging in Alma, have your MARC records and Primo and Discoverable and Primo, or if you're using BibFrame, you would catalog in Sinopia and send it to Alma, and it will merge into the workflow with the MARC records. So I mentioned our focus group. Our linked data focus group has 11 members, which we are working with together. Over the past, we started about 3 months ago, and we're working together till the first half of May 2024, where our goal is to bring linked data end-to-end workflows into Alma by the end of the first half of 2024. So I will review briefly the workflow, and afterwards, Yoa will go in depth and show explanations about this workflow and how it works. So as I mentioned before, we'd be cataloging in an external open source platform called Sinopia, where our records are integrated. We have an integration with the APIs that we've done with Sinopia. I'd like to thank Sinopia and members for their assistance. Our users can catalog, and they have a button that says send to catalog, and it will seamlessly be sent, the records are sent to Alma. There they can use the BibFrame records in all the different workflows, whether it's fulfillment, acquisition, inventory, or publishing. In addition to having the ability to manage the BibFrame records alongside the MARC records, we also have the ability to support BibFrame records in analytics. In analytics, we have 2 different tracks, one track being incorporating the instance, which is the parallel to the bib heading, into the existing tables and having them support all other analytics based on the same tables that exist. And the second track is creating analytics that are special for linked data. For example, wanting to count how many different links I have inside my records, how often do I refer to Library of Congress, how often do I refer to Wikidata, etc. And of course, to end the workflow, we're talking about the ability for the records to be discoverable, whether it's in Primo or in other discovery systems. So that was just a brief overview of what we've been doing with our focus group, and now I will show you what our plans are for the future for the next year and a half. So just a few highlights. So as I mentioned before, we've already incorporated an integration with our APIs with the existing instance of Sinopia. We are taking the first half of 2024 to test the possibility of hosting our own instance of Sinopia. This way, we will be able to create a broader integration for our Alma users, providing a platform for collaborative cataloging. And this will be a big chunk of our time in the first half, because we want to see if this is something that we want to incorporate and move forward with, which I think is a big change in the mindset for cataloging. In addition, we will be doing throughout the second half of 2024, as part of the all titles next generation search engine, we are adding info cards, which will be based on Wikidata and Library of Congress information. We will be combining them together to add the contributors section, which will have additional information about the contributors for each record and the ability to view more information on Wikidata or to generate a new search inside Alma. So another aspect that we understand as part of the hybrid approach, we have a lot of members who are users that would like to use, continue with the MARC records with enriching them with URIs. Currently, we support adding URIs as part of the on-the-fly conversion during publication. We can have URIs of linked authorities added. So we will be incorporating these capabilities into the ND editor, allowing our users who want to save the URIs permanently in the record. We'll have a process that will add it to the existing authorities and links, having a URI added to the record in $0 or $1 per configuration. And in addition, we will be taking the Alma Refined Cloud app, which right now allows us to do external lookups, and we will incorporate into the MD editor as a seamless workflow to make it easier and more seamless for our users. An additional aspect of linked data is right now, as I mentioned, we're working on the instance level, which is parallel to the bib heading. We would like to, in the beginning of 2025, to create a work search, which means adding to the next generation all titles search the ability to search for a work and the relations between the works and between the works and the various instances, and creating a separate entity for the work from the instance. And another aspect that we are tackling throughout 2025 is the ability to integrate with your local data to an external knowledge graph system, whether it's I think we're beginning with MarkLogic, and the ability to take the information that's inside Alma, whether it's BibFrame or MARC, and have it exported into a knowledge graph. So that is the end of my slides. Yoel, I'm going to give it back to you.
Thank you.
Want to do some slides or do some questions or move on to your demonstration.
Okay, we'll move on now to part 2 here. So we're going to look first at creating the BibFrame records in Alma via an API. Everything that I'm going to be showing here is in a blog, and I'm sending out in the chat a link to that blog. It's also, by the way, on the 2023 webinar series page. The blog we can see here as well. Let's go into the blog here. How to create a BibFrame record in Alma via an API. So we're showing now how a BibFrame record can already exist in Alma. Adina mentioned that we're going to be working with Sinopia as the cataloging tool, we'll call it, to be able to create those BibFrame records. It's also possible via an API. There'll be various methods where a BibFrame record can be ingested into Alma. I'm showing here step by step from the very beginning of how we can create that BibFrame record. First, the XML of the record that gets created, and then how to run an API to create it in Alma. So let's go in, for example, to ID LocGov, where there are already BibFrame records, and let's take a record from here and put it into Alma. Now, if I go into Alma already now, before I do this, we can search for BibFrame records. I'm in the all title search, and I'm searching by record format, LCBF instance, Library of Congress BibFrame instance, and we see that we have 4 results. Now we're going to come and create a 5th record via an API. So let's do a search here. For example, we'll search by Sheryl Sandberg, just to get a sample record. And let's take this first one here. Patina Amy Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook. Before we do that, we want to make sure we're going to get a work, because first we're going to import the work or create the work, then we're going to create the instance. So I'm going to facet here by BibFrame works. And here it is. This is the BibFrame work for Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook and founder of the Lean In movement. Let's open that up, clicking the title. And I'll download this. So I'll come here to RDF XML Compact and save as. And I already have a dedicated folder here called Session 2023, November 7th. I'm going to save this, and just to make sure I know that this is the work, I'm going to add to the file name work. Then we'll get the instance. So the instance of this is right here. I can get it here, or I can do another search and facet by instance. I'll come right here and get the instance of this. So now we're looking at the instance, and let's save this one as well. So we'll right click here again, save link as, and we'll call this instance. So now we have 2 records. Let's go take a look at those. Here we are. Let's open these in Notepad++, take a look at them. All of this I'm just showing so we see technically what's behind the scenes. Typically, you would already have a record in BibFrame. So here's our record. Now, just for getting it into XML, I'm going to say language XML on the instance, language XML on the work. And let's add now the necessary tags that we need on the top and bottom here. For example, on this work, I'm going to add the tags here. It's going to be bib, record format. This is going to be LCBF work. And on the top of the instance, I'll add LCBF instance. Then we'll close the bib, close the record on the bottom. So now we've closed that. And we'll do the same thing on the work. And we have 2 records ready to load into Alma or create in Alma via an API. I'm going to save these, even though I don't need to save, because you'll see I'm going to copy and paste them. Now I can use any API client. I'm going to use the Ex Libris Developers Network API console right here. And we'll create a bib, just like any other bib, exactly like any other bib. Simply the format of the record is now a Library of Congress BibFrame instance and a Library of Congress BibFrame work. So we're going to start with the work here. So from the API console, I'll say bibliographic records and inventory. And we'll say catalog post to create a record. And we'll click try it out so we can test it. And now in the request body, often called the payload, we'll put in here the work that we just a moment ago downloaded. So here's my work. We'll take this, put it in here, and run it. Execute. So that's now creating a record. And let's take a look at it. Here it is. It was created, code 200, everything's good. Now note it has an MMS ID beginning with a 97. Those of you who have paid attention to the numbering system, all the entities in Alma have various 2-digit codes at the beginning. Typically, a bibliographic record begins with 99. This is beginning with 97. The work is beginning with 97. I'm just going to save this on the side, even though it's not necessary, but I'm going to save it on the side in case we want to look at it later. And now let's create the instance. So let's clear this. And now we'll get the instance. Here's the instance we downloaded just a moment ago from Library of Congress. Back to the API console. And instead of this, we'll put in the instance. Let's make sure that's the instance. Yes, we're closing an instance here. On top, we're LCBF instance. And let's execute this. And this should create an instance with a 99 at the beginning. And here we go. So it created now the instance of Sheryl Sandberg, COO, founder of the Lean In movement. Here's our MMS ID. Let's put that on the side as well. And let's take a look. So now if I come back to Alma and I do this same exact search that I did a moment ago, we have 4 records. I'm going to do the same search again. And now we have 5 records. So we have successfully created a BibFrame record. Here it is in Alma via an API. We can see that was created right now. That's my time of the environment here. November 7th, 6:21 a.m. Now, let's see what we can do with this record. So as Adina stated, the editing of this record will be done via Sinopia. The administrative aspects of editing this record, when I say administrative aspects, I mean, for example, adding inventory, suppressing, unsuppressing, etc., we can do in the metadata editor. So I clicked Edit Record here. And let's unsuppress it. The reason it was suppressed is because of a parameter in the API. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a BibFrame record. So here's the record. Note, there's a new section here. In addition to mark, unimark, CN mark. Now, most of you will not have all of these various types of marks. I've got a demo environment here where I show all different kinds of marks. So I've got them all. And a new one here, LCBF instance, because that's what I've got open. So I'm going to unsuppress this and save, and now it's not suppressed anymore. Now we can also, for example, add inventory to this. Let me undo this. Okay, and save. Okay. I'm going to release that. And then we're going to add the inventory. So let's search for that here. So let's say COO Facebook Sheryl. That should be enough. And here's our record. So we see, for example, that the indexes work like all other indexes. We see it's no longer suppressed. So I was able to do that unsuppress in the metadata editor. The indexes work like all other indexes. Let's take a look here. If we click the title, clicking the title brings us to the instance view, and we can view the work. I'm going to click View Work. So now we're viewing the work. That's the 9.7. I'm going to go back to the instance. Now, from the instance, we can add holdings, which brings us to the metadata editor. And let's add simple holdings record. I'll leave it like this, just with a library and a location. And let's also add an item. So now we're taking our BibFrame record, adding the holdings record, adding an item, just like any other record. The stress here is that the BibFrame record is behaving in Alma like all other records. So here's my item. I'll save it. I have a rule here that automatically makes a barcode. So we're all set. Let's release these. Yes. Okay. Now, if we take a look again at this record, we see we have inventory. And let's go get that item. And let's even loan that item. So here's my barcode. So I can come along, for example, manage patron services, take a patron, and loan. and everything's working just like any other record in Alma. It's been loaned, we'll return it, and everything's good. A bib frame record fully integrated into Alma, just like all other records. And let's go COO Facebook Cheryl. We can also, for example, here, create an order. And I'm just going to make a very, very basic order here, just to show we can create an order with this as well. Give it a library, give it a type. I'll even use a template, create the purchase order line. And a new purchase order line was created. And here we are. So we're able to create a purchase order line. I'm just going to save that without even doing anything else to it. And let's take a look now. Again, if we search COO Facebook Cheryl, we'll get our bib frame record. And we see we also have an order. So the bib frame record in sum was created by going to the Library of Congress, downloading a bib frame work and the corresponding bib frame instance. Then we saw that it behaves in Alma like all other records. We were able to add inventory. We were able to suppress, unsuppress. We were able to create an order. We were able to create a loan, return, just like all other records. And we also have a way to search for this in the advanced search, where we have record format, which has always existed, record format, and a way here to search for the LCBF instance, which of course, once this is fully in Alma, it will no longer say under construction. So now I can get all of my bib frame records, and the one we created is right here. Okay, someone asked about loading the instance with the work. The records, I don't want to get too much into the details of BibFrame, but inside this instance and inside this work, they are related to each other. For example, I'm inside the work, and if I say has instance, this is pointing to the instance, which is ID.gov resources instance 18016450, where if I go to the instance, that's this instance here. It's an instance of that one there that the work was pointing to. So that's how they're related. There could be another instance as well. Before we go on now to the next section, which is the existing functionality of linked data in Alma, I'm just going to take a look at the chat. I saw Adina was already answering many of the chats. Let's see if there's anything outstanding here. Dan asks, so you can toggle to the mark view from the imported bib frame record. Let's take a look at that. So let's go look at here it is, the imported bib frame record. So if I click the title of this, I don't see a mark version. If that's your question, can I see a mark version of this? No, we'll talk about that another time. So Adina's responding to that as we speak. Let's just take a look at that for the benefit of everybody. This feature, viewing the bib frame record as mark, is currently in development. Okay. So from here, we can go to the work. I'm now in the instance as we see here, and I can go to the work. And then from the work, I can go back to the instance. Back. Let's see if there's anything else there before we get on to existing functionality. Adina, I think we covered all the questions that came in, correct?
Yes, I'm just answering Ahava. I can also answer
Okay.
like this. So the URI being added to the $0 one as part of the MD editor process and the enrichment, it's only adding the URI. meaning the preferred term correction job will still run on the text, the title of the linking. It doesn't change the URI because the URI is consistent regardless of the preferred term correction.
Okay, so let's move on now to existing functionality. So we've got a bibframe on the fly conversion for display inside Alma in the repository search. That's the opposite of what, Dan, you were referring to. You asked about taking the bibframe record, which we see in front of us, and viewing it in MARC. We have something else where we can take the MARC record and view that in bibframes. So, for example, if I were to search here for a lean in woman work will to lead, we're going to use this example for everything we're doing now. I've got this in a set and did various things to it. So this is the record we're going to be using. So from here, for example, if I click the title, I have the MARC record, but then I can also go and view the bibframe. So this is doing an on-the-fly conversion to bibframe. This is the same format as the records which I loaded a moment ago, the work in the instance that I downloaded from Library of Congress. So we've got an on-the-fly. This has existed for quite some time, though we did do some work here cleaning up what's sitting here or what's displaying here. So that's going from the MARC to the bibframe. Also inside the repository search, it's possible to see the linked data entities. For example, let's again do that search. And from here, from the action items, these three dots here are called the action items. We've got a link here to the linked data. And this is showing, as the name suggests, the linked data. For example, if I were to look at this first one here for creator, I got one for Library of Congress authorities, opens in a new tab. Here's the record here that it was linked to. By the way, from here, you may recall, this is what I downloaded a little while ago. Down here on the bottom, I had some links. So that's one way of viewing the linked data. Let's also, while we're here, look at another link. So here's one from VIAF, for example. And that will open up the creator in the VIAF. And we can also see these inside the metadata editor. So if we were to take this and say edit record, so here we can say view related data in the linked data. And again, we see those same links that we saw a moment ago when we were inside the Alma repository search and did the action items. Let's take a look here. For example, let's take one of these subjects. This is going to go to Library of Congress, woman executive. So it's bringing all of the various links here. Let's take one more. Here's one from VIAF on a subject. This is Sheryl Sandberg as a subject. And so we see all the links here inside Alma, this time in the metadata editor. Now, it's also possible to export the records in bibframe or MARC 21 with linked data enrichment or RDA RDF. So let's take a look at the publishing profiles. And I've got 3 publishing profiles here. I'm not going to run the publishing profiles now on the spot. I already ran them and already have the output files, so we're going to look at them. But let's take a look at these 3. So this is, I just gave it the name of the record. I have one record in a set, and I'm using that set to publish. And the record that we're publishing is the Lean In Woman Work Will to Lead. So let's take a look at this one here, which publishes to bibframe. So we have here the name of the set. The set has one record. In fact, we'll look at the set in a moment. Output format is the bibframe bibliographic. And then I'm simply sending it to the FTP. Nothing special there in XML. And inside the data enrichment, when we chose bibframe, it automatically checks this linked data enrichment. We're going to talk about that in a moment because we're going to do a MARC 21 with linked data enrichment also. So that's one publishing profile, which is publishing to BibFrame. When we create the profile, by the way, I'm clicking Add Profile, General Profile for the publishing. This is if we want to export our records somewhere or publish them. So these are the various options here. And on the previous one, I had chosen BibFrame, but you can see there's a lot of options here. Now I'm going to show one where I choose RDA, RDF. And then we're going to show one where I choose Mark 21 Bibliographic here. And on the next tab, I'm just going to give anything here because I'm not going to save this. On the next tab, okay, next. Oh, I got to choose a method here. Okay, I'll choose anything. That should suffice. Next. So here we can say link data enrichment. So it's going to take this Mark 21 file, and Mark 21 record, file of Mark 21 records, and put inside link data. So let's do that. I'm going to get out of here. And let's take a look now at the one going to RDA, RDF. I already showed how we can choose it, and it's already chosen. So this is going to the RDA, RDF using the same set. And in the data enrichment, because we chose RDA, RDF, it automatically checked this link data enrichment. Then we have one more example, which is publishing a Mark 21 file using the link data enrichment. And here it is. It's doing Mark 21 file here. And then here, we have checked manually the link data enrichment. So we have 3 publishing profiles, all of them using the set, which is called Lean In, Woman Work, Will to Lead. This set here, where if we go to the content, we see it has one record, which is the record we've been using for our examples now. So let's take a look now at how this publishes. So I have here links to these 3 records. Let's take a look at them. I will simply click them here. It'll open in my browser. Not always the optimal way to see an XML, but for our purposes suffices. So here we are. This is the RDA, RDF, which went, yep, RDA, RDF. We see here RDF, and it's got all of the various links here. Let's, for example, take any of these links. So here's one with a subject. And if we take this one here, and just to view this, okay. So this is bringing us to the Library of Congress, taking that subject from the bibliographic record. I'm going to open this bibliographic record. So it's taking that subject, women executives, automatically putting in this. I shouldn't say automatically. It's linked in Alma already. It's got the indicator 0 for Library of Congress. It linked to the Library of Congress subject heading in the community zone. And then Alma knows automatically when publishing and checking that RDA, RDF and the link data enrichment to include these links. Because notice, in this record, this is an important point. In this record, nowhere do I have that URL that we just looked to that was included in the published file. Nowhere in here do I have even a subfield 0 with a URL. I have no URLs in here. Yet when I published it, Alma knew automatically to add these. And it knew automatically to add them because I've got this second indicator here, 0. And if I were to look at this in the metadata editor, I would see that it is linked to a Library of Congress heading. Let's move on, though. So then we've also got an example here of just a Mark 21 bibliographic file, but using the link data enrichment. So now we see a Mark 21 file in XML with the regular 245, ABC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we see again, even though I don't have these in my bibliographic record, Alma knew because those headings are linked. Let's even take a look at this in the metadata editor. We're not too pressed on time. So we can see here These are linked authority records, so Alma knows automatically to go and get the required data for the linked data enrichment. Let's just take this one just for the fun, put that in here, and that will bring us, for example, that subject that Alma knew to go and get, accept all cookies. Okay, and now I have the link. Let's just take a look at another example. So you can see here, back to the record, I have 3 subjects that are linked. We see that's not a magnifying glass. What is that called? Binoculars, showing that it's linked. And so I've got these 3 subjects, all with various links. Let's take a look at one more. Same links we had in the other records, simply in a different format now. Let's take a look at our last example. This is publishing it out to BibFrame. Open this in a new tab. I'll close these other tabs so we don't confuse ourselves. So now we're looking at the BibFrame record. And again, we have the links. Same links we already saw. Now, there's links here, by the way, not only for the linked headings, which were the subjects and the author, like here, but we also have links for example, here, ontologies BibFrame text. These can be used by various applications which are working with the BibFrame. Same thing here, monograph, the languages, etc. Okay, we said we wanted to leave time for the questions and comments. So now we're at that point where we want to have the time. I saw that Adina was already answering most of the questions. Let's take a look here. I'm going to stop sharing actually, I'll keep sharing for a moment. Maybe I'll just put this one on. And let's take a look at the chats. Okay, and let's see what we got here. Can you give some use cases for publishing just shown, interaction with union catalogs, use some way to display linked data in Primo? Okay. So Adina's taking that one, the workflow for collaborative cataloging would not, okay, that was a different one. So the person who asks about the publishing of linked data, various places use it for all kinds of means. Some places will have just like the regular publishing, there will be some kind of a central catalog where various institutions may export to. It might be a union catalog of a certain region or a certain country, or you may want to make some kind of a local application. Various use cases. The main point now is we're showing that at this stage, as Adina showed in the roadmap, that at this stage we have the support for the BibFrame record inside Alma that is behaving same as all the other records with the inventory, the management and the metadata editor, etc. Soon also working with Sinopia, in that we have on-the-fly conversions from MARC to the BibFrame and linked data inside Alma. And as Adina mentioned, we're going to have the opposite way from the BibFrame record to the MARC 21 record. Adina, if you want to add anything to that, feel free.
So I just want to say, I was busy answering questions. I didn't see if you showed how the record is displayed in Primo VE, but the records.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Yeah. So, but I'll explain that the concept of the BibFrame records are automatically sent to Primo VE and are part of the existing workflow and are treated the same as all other records at the moment. And that's the standard workflow if we're talking about the 2 tracks. And the second track is the creation of the person pages that is and the person entities that is being developed and managed by Khani Yehuda. I believe she mentioned it in the Library Journal webinar last week.
Okay, so now we're in Primo. And so we imported that record that we copied from Library of Congress a moment ago. Let's just get that record. I'm going to release all these. So the record that we imported was COO Cheryl Facebook, but let's just search and get the exact. So I'm searching by record format, searching by Library of Congress BibFrame instance. And so the one we did is this one here, Cheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook and founder of the Lean In movement. So if we pop into Primo here and I search for Cheryl, COO, lean in founder. And let's search that in the Library of Congress. Okay, so here we are showing the icon, availability, and get it tab. Now notice there's two copies, one available. That's because if you recall, I made an order, and that order created an item. So right now it says 2 copies, 1 available. Just for the fun, let's come in here again. Let's take this item and the one which we didn't order, the one we created ourselves. That's this one, not this one. That's got the purchase order line. So we'll take the other one. This one here, if I come and loan this now, fulfillment, managed patron services, we'll take Alicia, loaning the item of the instance, and back to Primo. So now I'm just going to refresh, and instead of 2 copies, 1 available, now it's not available. So even the RTA, the real-time availability, everything is fully integrated, just like any other record. There's nothing special here. And now it's got the on order and the on loan until. So that's the record in Primo, behaving like all other records. Okay, let's see if there's anything else there in the chat. So basically, BibFrame record right now is an alternate format. Yes, it's an additional format, but the way to create it now is via an API. Later on, there'll be the Synopia, and it'll be more integrated for the creations. Adina, you want to respond to anything on those? Go ahead.
Yeah, again, if we're talking about the hybrid approach of allowing the integration and the seamless gradual transition from Mark to BibFrame, the strategy is to first support the same workflows that we support for Mark, support them for BibFrame, and then after that, we would be able to expand it and enhance the advantage of the BibFrame format, which I explained in whether it's the knowledge graph integration that we're just about planning, or the work search and having the ability to consolidate instances to searches and create the more hierarchy in the information, and thus also support a more advanced discovery experience. But first, the first we want to be able to see them side by side, and that is what we're working on currently with our focus group.
Someone asked about seeing the PNX record. Let's get the exact question there. Can we see the PNX record of that COO's record? I assume that's COO's record. You wrote Koo's record. So this is the PNX. All I did here was added to the end here a little tag so we'd be able to see. Let me get rid of this thing here. Show PNX equals true. So I don't know if this is overly technical for most people, but this is a format of the record. So now we're looking at the BibFrame record, the PNX of it, which is a format related to the Primo. Again, just like all other records, everything is behaving in Alma just like all of the other ones, just as if I had taken any other record and tried to view the PNX. Did that answer your question, person who asked, can we see the PNX of that COO's record? Yes, thank you. Okay.
Okay. I just, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I'm just going to interrupt. I see someone's asking about the URIs being applicable in the Primo. Again, they will be applicable as part of the person page, which is also being developed as we speak. That's due to be released in May, if I remember correctly. The person page will basically be based on these URIs, and allowing us to create a more robust relation between different records and between different persons.
Okay, it looks like we've covered all the questions. Let's just take one last look. Anybody before we close? Okay, so thanks everyone. We hope to see you in the rest of the 2023 Roadmap webinar series next week, managing sets, and then 2 weeks later, the new filtering options in the analytics reports, filtering options by library per user. So thanks everyone for joining, and we will be posting the recording of this. Messages will go out that the recording is ready. It will be on YouTube. And thanks for joining. Have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.